Maley, your Brighton Town Supervisor, and I'm pleased to welcome you this evening to our June 26, 2019 meeting of the Brighton Town Board. As always, we welcome you to participate in tonight's meeting, and we welcome you whether you are here in the room, as I see a number of people, or if you are watching us either on our YouTube live stream from our webpage or on Spectrum Digital Cable Channel 1303, where you can also watch us live. And wherever you're watching us, you can follow along. We have an agenda and supporting materials. Those same materials are on the back table in a folder that you can refer to. And if you're watching us remotely, on the town webpage, www.townofbrighton.org, the same packet is available for your review, the same packet that we're sitting here with tonight. So we welcome you to follow along and participate. We will start with a pledge to the flag. For those of you that are able to, please rise, and I'll ask Councilmember Corrado to lead us tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a couple of housekeeping announcements. In case you hear the town hall emergency alarm system activated, we will all need to leave the building immediately. You can either do so through this door to my right. If you take that, turn right, go either to the elevator or down the stairs and out the rear entrance of Town Hall and move away from the building. Or go out the double doors at the rear of this building, through the Town Hall lobby, out the main front doors of Town Hall, and away from the building. Now, if you are watching us on Spectrum, channel 1303, and if you experience technical difficulties with the live broadcast, either with the audio or the video, please contact Spectrum, and their phone number is 756-5000, 756-5000, if you have problems with the live feed on Spectrum. I want to introduce, we have our sign language interpreters this evening, Susan Pence and Jim Orr, and we appreciate you being here to make our meetings as inclusive as they can be. We have those interpreters at every town board meeting now. Okay, we're going to start this evening with a couple of proclamations, and this is always the fun part of the meeting. So let me go up to the podium here. Unless you have been hiding under a rock lately, you know that a Rochester icon, whom we have been reading in the Democrat and Chronicle for decades, and not just reading, learning from Edith Link for decades. Edith has been the go-to person in town for, and Chris and I both commented on this, both for attorneys and for lay people. Edith has been there. Edith has been like a friend, like a family. You know, Sunday mornings, we all get together with Edith and learn a little bit about real estate. Well, Edith is retiring. And, you know, when I go door to door talking to people, there are a few people that I really look forward to going to their house. And one of those people, right down on Hemingway, I won't give out your address, Edith, but Edith Link When you get a chance to talk to Edith and spend some time learning from you, enjoying your company, it just makes the day. So I would like to invite you, Edith, and your family and friends to, if you'd like to join me up here at the podium. Or if you want to keep continuing to film, that's good too. It's not film, video. Come on up, Edith. As you know, we have a proclamation tonight to honor you, to recognize your years of service and your years as a Brighton resident. So here goes. Over the course of 40 years, Edith Lank has become a real estate guru and prized local gem, sharing her vibrant spirit, dedication to her craft, and sense of humor through her weekly syndicated real estate column, her numerous books and magazine articles, and her appearances on radio and television. And I do note that we have one of your colleagues here tonight, Mary Chow. Welcome, Mary. And whereas readers across the country came to rely upon Edith Lank for her talent in demystifying real estate issues and providing sound, concise advice to even the most confounding questions. And whereas author of 11 books, 10 on real estate and 1 on Jane Austen, Edith Lank never met a real estate question she couldn't answer, nor a Jane Austen artifact that she could resist. And whereas Edith Lank has worked in newspapers since her teen years, competently providing town reporting remotely by sending copy out via local bus to her editors. Technology, it's a beautiful thing. And whereas Edith seamlessly adapted to the needs of an evolving news industry, embracing the immediacy of electronic communication by starting, of course, AskEdith.com and creating a personal blog, 86 and Holding. And whereas Edith Lank has announced her retirement and penned her last column at the age of 93, leaving each of us a little wiser for your work and a little sadder that you're taking it to the next chapter of your life or the next edition of your life. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, on behalf of myself and the members of the Brighton Town Board, do hereby declare June 26, 2019 to be Edith Lank Day in the town of Brighton, and we congratulate our distinguished Brightonian neighbor on your long and successful writing career, and thank you for joining us each weekend, each Saturday in the Democrat and Chronicles real estate section with her smiling portrait and quality advice. This proclamation is signed the 26th day of June, 2019. It comes with love, respect, and admiration from all of us. Thank you. Would you like to say a few words?
I can say a few words.
Maybe you can turn around so that...
I can always talk. I was thinking about this room. I used to come here as an election inspector.
Right?
Used to wake up very early in the morning. That's the only time I used to see Orion when I came out in this room. I was an election inspector for many years. I'm trying to think what else. My niece was married in this room. I tried to find out, in fact, what year this building was built, because we came to Brighton in 1954. And I have been in the same house since 1954. So Brighton's been a very good place. My kids went to very good schools. And I'm very glad I didn't keep the column until I died, because I wouldn't have got any of this stuff, and now I'm getting all this nice. So thank you very much.
To the best of my knowledge, Edith, it was 1953 that the building was completed. And as I said to you apropos of what you said there at the end, this has been sort of like when they take the star player out of the game with a minute left to go in the game, so that player can get a standing ovation from everybody in the arena. You've been getting a well-deserved standing ovation for the last several days, and we're just glad to be a part of it. Now, I want to note that Chief Mark Henderson also has a presentation.
We'll put this over here a second. Join us at the podium. So for a number of years, I've known Edith, and back in the patrol days and community engagement, I'd go down in the neighborhood of Hemingway, and there would always be a familiar face and some conversation about neighborhood issues. And then in July of 2010, I became the chief, and we interacted quite a bit over the years. And I have a certificate of recognition. We were just talking about a conversation we had one time. Earlier in my career as the chief, and you had just made supervisor and some members of the board, I had talked about a particular crime pattern that was occurring in Brighton, and it seemed to get a lot of media coverage in the DNC and whatever. And then you called me for a visit, and we sat out on your front porch, and you talked about the more I would talk about crime, the more impact that would have on real estate values. So I've never forgot that day. So I have a certificate of recognition on the occasion of your retirement as a real estate columnist for the Democrat and Chronicle, in recognition and appreciation of the support to the Hemingway neighborhood that you have given. You have provided me with insight and guidance on public safety issues that can impact the real estate values in the town of Brighton. And I've enjoyed our conversations over there, and we'll continue with them. Edith, it was great.
I'm glad I didn't die before.
One more standing ovation. This past week, on June 20th, we celebrated World Refugee Day. And we've heard a lot about refugees. I don't think we always hear the important news about refugees, the important role that refugees have brought in bringing energy to communities, in bringing new ideas, new traditions, new cuisines to communities. Their hearts, their souls to communities like the Rochester area. I do want to issue a proclamation tonight. The town board wants to issue a proclamation, and we specifically want to recognize, in general, our friends in the South Sudanese community, but one person in particular. And Sebastian Mondin, I would like you to come up, and you have with you a couple of people who are active in your organization, Building Minds in South Sudan. This past weekend, Building Minds in South Sudan held a dinner to support their activities, building schools, enabling teachers in the South Sudan to continue the restoration of that country following years of strife. I said that night that anybody who believes that one person cannot make a difference in the world, let me introduce you to Sebastian. Because Sebastian is one person. Sometimes you'd think there were a lot of Sebastians running around because he does so much. But Sebastian is one person here in this country, back in his homeland of the South Sudan, every day working to make his country and his home here in Rochester better places. So as we honor World Refugee Day 2019, we want to honor you and Building Minds in South Sudan. And I'd like to read this proclamation. Whereas, first celebrated on June 20, 2001, in commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees, World Refugee Day is a moment in time to communicate with the world about refugees and their plight. And whereas the world is currently in the midst of the largest refugee crisis since World War II, with an unprecedented 70.8 million people forcibly displaced worldwide, a full half of whom are children. And whereas globally 37,000 people are forced to flee their homes each day due to conflict or persecution, at the same time that the United States' refugee resettlement program has been cut by 75%, with the lowest ever annual refugee admission goal of only 30,000 people. I would note, less than 1 day's worth of people who are being displaced from their homes. And whereas on this World Refugee Day, we seek to build empathy and understanding for refugees and recognize refugees' courage in overcoming adversity. And whereas we also honor the work of Building Minds in South Sudan, a refugee-founded organization that strives to better people's lives by building schools and training teachers, giving hope to once shattered villages. And whereas Building Minds in South Sudan is evidence of the power of compassion and the remarkable resilience of its founders, cousins Sebastian Murundit and Matan Noy, both refugees from war before the age of 10. And I would add, like so many, the so-called lost boys from what was then the Sudan, these are people who walked across their country as children, then spent years in refugee camps, and came to this country and contributed in so many ways and never forgot home. So whereas the town of Brighton values the richness of experience and skills that refugees bring to us, and we honor the unique contributions that refugees make to the diverse mosaic of our community. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, on behalf of myself and the members of the Brighton Town Board, do hereby recognize World Refugee Day and acknowledge that refugees have enriched our community by sharing their stories and connecting us to other countries. This proclamation is signed the 26th day of June, 2019, and it gives me great pleasure to present this to my friend, someone I have known for a long time and admired, Sebastian Murundit. If you'd like to say a few words and introduce your team, we'd love you to.
Well, I wish I could borrow his English to express my gratitude, but I will try what I have. First, I would like to introduce Judy Short. She's our chair of the board of Building Minds in South Sudan. And also thanks her husband, because even in the middle of the night, should I need anything, I will call. And if you pick the phone up, I will say, she's at home. Instead of saying, can I talk to your wife? I just straightforward, she's at home. Thank you, Al. And Sarah, she's our treasurer of Building Minds in South Sudan. On behalf of children in South Sudan, those who are thirst for education, and on my behalf, I would like to thank you all for this honor. I'm so honored. It's actually going to give me a lot of energy and all aboard to do more for the children that need education in South Sudan. When I came to this country, I was confused. The first thing I learned was to turn this light up and on, just man-made lights, and how to use American toilets. There's two things. The one that you may have learned when you're 5 years old, I was learning them at age 20. 20 years old man learning these basic things, and how to take bus, and how to stop at the stop signs when I was trained how to drive. It took me 5 years to adjust into American culture and the weather that I thought was going to kill me. After your town showed me the love and care, Matan Noy and I thought it was going to be selfishness of us to keep it to ourselves, but to take it home to share with the children that need education. Thank you very much.
Okay. Goodbye, and thank you so much. Thank you, Edith. Thank you, Sebastian. We will now continue with the open forum portion of our meeting, as we do at every meeting. We encourage people to come in, ask questions, or comment to the town board during this open forum portion. And we also make that availability not only if you're here in the room, but you can also call in at 303-3060. That's 303-3060 if you would like to call in to share your comment during the open forum. And if you're deaf or hard of hearing, you can call 303-3060 and use your video phone. It's a new number, new information for everybody, 303-3060 as well for the deaf and hard of hearing community. We look forward to hearing from you with your questions and your concerns. Is there anyone that would like to address the board during the open forum? Ms. Reed?
I was trying to be first. Okay, I'm Bonda Reed. I'm probably popularly known as the lady who lives on the corner now, after the last public meeting you had.
And if you could just share your address with us.
Oh, sure. I'm the lady who lives at the corner of Elmwood and Hampshire, 2881. And I'm the lady who is referred to in these minutes multiple times. And I do have to say this. I appreciate the fact that you did make a number of attempts to rein it in and bring some civility into the situation. And I appreciated your support of wildlife. And you were very vocal about that. So the ducks say thank you. So I appreciate that. But what is problematic is this, is that there is no way that I could not have been identified or my property with what was said at the meeting. I've broken no laws. I had never received a warning or a fine. I was simply following the ordinance that you had. And I think that's what most people do. But the consequence was a public skewering, so to speak, in this room. And I really would like an explanation for why anyone thinks that that was appropriate. Anyone?
If you would want to, if you would just.
Do you want me to say more?
Continue with your,
Okay.
yes, please, thanks.
Okay. Yes, it may surprise some people to know that at the end of winter, I was already cutting down on my rations of corn because my goal was for the ducks to be on their own by winter. And I have a reason for this. I have a horse, a rescue horse, that I moved into Webster at $4.25 a month. So I was looking for places to find money. And I thought, I'm spending $200 a month on duck food. So I started reducing their food, and I have receipts that I can supply from Country Max showing that my purchasing of duck food went down drastically. So interestingly enough, my goal was the same as your goal. But I was getting at it with a much different approach because it was my decision and I didn't think I had to include anyone. It did become a bit of a traffic thing, I acknowledge that. And although I didn't spend nearly as much time in the street as is purported in these notes, I would try to keep the ducks corralled on the side of the road so they wouldn't be in the way of cars. And then when there were no cars, encourage them to fly off safely. So I am absolutely guilty of trying to protect cars and ducks. And I didn't expect the large amount of ducks that I got. It was kind of like Christmas and all the presents are yours. But all the ducks were mine suddenly. And I decided that I needed to reduce the number of ducks and I did not want to be their sole person they're depending on. So I actually have evidence and a paper trail I can provide for that if anyone is just thinking that after the facts it's easy to say that. But I needed the money for my horse. And it's not like I could bring my horse home to Brighton. That would be a really big problem, which I didn't do. There are some things on here that I think need to be noted. Brighton is not a gated community. It's not a regulated condo community. I don't believe any person in any neighborhood should appoint themselves as the mayor of a neighborhood and decide they are going to rule and regulate what everyone else does and supervise them. Because I think that's setting up the neighborhood for conflict. And no one is going to respond to a bully. And I speak solely for myself because I'm not ever going to respond well to somebody bullying me into their position. But I would have been open to coming down to the town building, and I would have been open to discussing this because I already was on the same track that you wanted to go on. So it's unfortunate that we weren't able to do that. But there are some things that do need to be clarified. I am guilty of not paying any attention to notices. I don't get the Brighton Pittsford Post. I don't pay any attention to when the meetings are. I try to stay in my own property, not interact with anyone from the town, and just kind of live my own life. And I'm kind of busy as it is. So I did not know about any of this. Otherwise, I would have been here. I would have had an opinion. It's only one opinion, but it's a democracy. So if the majority feel a way, then my first thing I did was to come down when I learned about it. And I said, I agree. This is what the town wants to do. So it was never going to be a question, was I ever going to comply with this ordinance? Because I clearly said, I agree. So I just want to clarify that. And there's a comment in here by the town attorney, and it said, frankly, it created a mess with the ducks. I'm not sure you've ever visited my property, and I'm not really sure what you're referring to, but it's concerning that it was stated at a town meeting. Okay, and we can address that later. There have been a lot of comments here about the troublesome crows. The crows go from the city to the country in the morning. On the way, they stop off. And sometimes they're crows. Crows are very aggressive birds, but so are blue jays. I've seen a blue jay poke a hole in the side of a finch's head. It doesn't mean we're going to ban blue jays. Animals have the temperament they have, and that's called nature. And there are grackles. I have grackles, I have cowbirds. Grackles have green heads, cowbirds have brown heads. Cowbirds are not something that we like to have a lot of because they rob other nests. but I don't know a way to enforce not allowing grackles around. So we have them. But we do not have a crow infestation. And I think appointing the person who already believes that they're the manager of the neighborhood is not a good policy either. And that's in the notes also. It's not my responsibility. It doesn't matter if they're mean birds and they attack other birds. We aren't in charge of their temperament, just like I'm not in charge of the temperament of my neighbors or the comments they make or whether they like me or don't like me. Many of the people who spoke at that meeting have never spoken to me a word since I lived there in 1985. I wouldn't know them if I tripped over them, but they have a lot of opinions. You also he self-identified himself, so I will. Fred Dugan states that he bought a trap and trapped 28 squirrels in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. He took him to Ellison Park. He swears everyone found their way back, so he ceased. Well, if he knew anything about wildlife, he would know that an area only supports so many squirrels. If you remove them, they're going to be replaced with others. So if someone is going to be spouting what's best for animals and pretending they're DEC, it might be nice if he didn't violate the law and he learned about animals a bit. So that would be useful. But he seems to be obsessed with crows. And for the defense of crows, when crows are attacking a nest or something, I take 2 metal things and I bang them together and I try to scare the crows off because I don't want the nest to be robbed either. But I don't think we should go about trapping and killing crows. I noticed on a police report a comment was made that there were some ducks on my roof. There is no ordinance against ducks sitting on a roof. So I would just like to clarify that since it's my roof I pay taxes for, and there's no ordinance, and I can't control where they land before they swoop down and look for the food they're used to getting and then decide we'll have water and we'll go away. I would like to not have that become a problem that's being complained about with neighbors, because I can't control if they land on the roof across the way. But we do not have, as one neighbor accused the ducks of doing, we don't have ducks randomly pooping all over and pooping on people's windows. I actually got an email making this claim that ducks were pooping on windows, and it's physically not possible for it to unless it can stop in front of a window like some sort of mechanical device, turn around and hold itself in the air and poop on windows of houses. This is not happening. Cars are not covered with duck poop because otherwise my car would be covered. And I'd have duck poop on my windows, and I'd have E. coli, and there is not E. coli running rampant from my house anywhere. So I don't have a problem with the ordinance itself. I have a problem with the things that aren't true. And just because someone says this doesn't mean it's true. My sidewalk is not covered in duck poop, nor is it slippery and unsafe. Noted by the stroller man who decided to have a confrontation on the sidewalk because it was good enough to walk the stroller down, so obviously it's not a hazard. The traffic things, I do agree in the winter it's a problem because there are so many and there's snowbanks, and that's a bit of an issue, which is why I thought before they get run over, then let's just see if we can get this under control. And and it was mentioned again by someone else. I'm not even going to mention her name. She's the person who lives across the street on the other corner. She talks about some other neighbors, they're having a discussion or something about crow incidents. They're feeding off cracked corn and food in my yard. I don't think I'm responsible for the crows that pass through. I don't have crows usually landing in my yard. They can land in trees and they can squawk, but it doesn't make me solely responsible for crows. And I'm also not responsible if she has had her chimney has had raccoons in them. They are a renter, they have a homeowner, and it is a homeowner's responsibility to replace a screen if it is not intact. I know this because I just had my boiler replaced. And I had to pay $100 to have my screen replaced on my chimney. But as a homeowner, that's my responsibility. It's not the raccoon's fault because they can get into a chimney. And that isn't my fault either. It's not good maintenance by the homeowner, so perhaps somebody could suggest to the owner of that house that a new screen might be appropriate and solve his problems. So just because somebody has an opinion that it's my fault doesn't make it true. I have an issue with this gentleman, well, even with her. She claims that she's seeing hundreds of pounds of crack cord being fed daily. Well, you'd need receipts from Country Max to prove that I'm feeding hundreds of pounds of corn. First of all, I couldn't afford to buy hundreds of pounds of corn, nor was I. So if people are going to complain and not like things, I'd like them to at least be accurate, because this is just silly. That's not true. Even if I claim she was trespassing, she wouldn't be seeing hundreds of pounds of corn, so I'm not even going to say she was trespassing. She's imagining there's hundreds of pounds of corn. I think that there wouldn't have been a problem with the ordinance being put in place if there were accurate facts, because if there are enough people who would like it, you have the authority to make it law. And that's fine. I don't have an issue with that. I live in Brighton. I don't live out in the country, so I can't make my own rules. Then there's the waterfowl amendment here. And this was talked to from the supervisor. And we talked about the good neighbor letter and trying to work with people. And I have a really sincere question. If somebody is violating an ordinance and it's an issue and you have a good neighbor policy, why has my mailbox been empty? Because there have been months that I could have gotten some communication from the town. I would have come in, as I mentioned to Mr. Guyan when I rapped on his window briefly. I would have come in to talk about it. I would have let you know what I was already doing. None of this had to happen. But no effort was made, no letter was sent, no phone call was made. I'm never going to be bullied by a neighbor and told what I have to do because that's what he wants. Nor would you. So there was a better way to do this. We also have the description of what is a violation. And this came from Mr. Gordon, and I just wanted to clarify it. I've been working with animal control, so I think the issue is being attended to. He's been really helpful. He's had some suggestions. I've given up on the ground feeder. No matter where I put it, the ducks find it, so I put that away. But I've been working with animal control, and he wrote a pretty good report, and I think it was accurate, and he's been helpful. He is the person I said, you can come on my property. And I do have a question, though, about any food product that's on the ground is proof that someone's violating the ordinance. We clearly have found from animal control report that the birds push food out of the feeders they don't want in an attempt to get to the food they want. So there is always going to be some food from the feeders on the ground in every single bird feeder in the town of Brighton. So unless we're going to outlaw bird feeders, I don't want to see myself getting a violation notice for this. I have agreed to comply with this. You can either believe me or not. I can't control that. But my goal is your goal. I don't want them here next winter. So if we agree on the goal, we should agree on the process. Make sense? Okay. All right. I do have a problem with the neighbor across the street making a police report, and she stated that she was going to continue to video to try to catch me violating this ordinance. I don't know about you, but I don't think there's a single person sitting at this table who would like it if their neighbor was knowingly videoing them constantly. And I have an appointment with my attorney for something unrelated, and I'm going to run it by him. I don't mind if animal control comes and does random checks. I don't have any problem with that. But I have a real problem with neighborhood vigilantes, and I think that's what we're setting up here. Either people are going to comply and be believed or they're not. So you can assume they're always not going to tell the truth, or you can let animal control monitor it, and that might work. So that's an issue, because I don't know if that's even legal. And we have somebody at 77 Hampshire, self-identified. I've never spoken to this man. And he thinks the problem lies with the humans involved, and we're trying to regulate waterfowl. But I clearly read your minutes and your statements, and it says that you're attempting to control people, not wildlife. Correct? You want to change the people's behavior. You can't control the animals' behavior or the waterfowl's behavior. This is where we go, and the one lady who does the feeding of the animals or birds on the corner of Hampshire and Elmwood. So, I've kind of been identified here, so I may as well come to a meeting and just be on cable, because I'm that lady. And my whole crime is that I like the ducks. And I think there are probably worse things that you could say about me other than I like ducks. And then I have the man who's terrified trying to get out into traffic on Elmwood, and because he's afraid, and he's afraid of the traffic and getting in, he's blaming it on the ducks. I think if he's uneasy getting into traffic and it makes him uncomfortable, then maybe he shouldn't be driving when there's that much traffic. But I don't think it's the ducks making him afraid. I don't see them doing that. He says that they swarm all over and they scare him. He says if I could bring them all in my yard, keep them there and keep them out of sight, he doesn't think anyone would be complaining. I don't know how I get there, except he also adds, I wonder how they get there. And it says she calls them. She has callers. I don't know how she does it, whether it's a handheld thing or what, but she actually calls them. He is saying that I have a way to magically get the ducks to come in my yard. It has been asked from a police officer if I was using lasers. And I said, well, let's see. I'm on a flight path. And if I was using a laser and I hit an airplane cockpit, it could be a huge problem. That's a ridiculous thing. So for someone to make a claim that somehow I have a magic way to get them in my yard, I think is kind of strange. And I think ducks are creatures of habit. If they find a place where there's food and food is supplied, they will be there. And if you wean them off like we're doing and now all they have is leftovers, then their behavior should change. But I don't have any lasers. I don't have any magic duck callers, because NRA probably would like to know it, because all their duck hunters could sit someplace warm and just call ducks. But that isn't how it works. So these are the wonderful things I've heard from my neighbors. And he talks about the traffic, and he says it's downright scary to me. I actually don't think the ducks are scaring him. And you do say it's not directed at a person, over and over and over. And I wonder why nobody heard that and nobody cared to listen to that, because you were very clear. It's in the minutes. I believe you made a sincere effort. What I would have liked to have seen at the beginning, and I don't manage town meetings, but since you had a feeling this would be an uncomfortable, controversial thing, and I wasn't even here, I didn't even know about it, imagine that. It would have maybe been helpful if before the meeting there could have been a very clear statement of what will and won't be tolerated, because it's the issue that you were wanting to have discussed and either passed up or down. It wasn't making a public hate fest. I don't think that was your intention, but that's what it ended up being. So if it was clearly stated at the beginning that these are the things that will not be tolerated, or perhaps the meeting would end. Perhaps the waterfowl thing would disappear forever if people were going to act that way. There had to be a way to protect me, since I violated nothing, instead of leaving me hanging out there being object of all of these people's unhappiness. So maybe you can think about that one. That's the one thing I'm not guilty of. Then we have the pigeons that man is talking about. And the pigeons seem to be a real problem. There are pigeons, I think they might come from the underpass over by the intersection there, that strange one. And there are like 4 or 5 pigeons that come every day. And they hang out and then they go away. They don't bother me. They're not making a huge mess. So I don't know what you think about pigeons, because this seems to be a real big issue, and I don't know if it's scary, but they're just pigeons. Doesn't seem to be a really big problem. That was the gentleman who talked about my 6 chickens, which is ridiculous. This is a problem because this was within 6 months of when I got my chickens, and I had 6 chickens. One turned out to be a rooster. So he was rehomed, and that happened in October. And someone at my house saw a strange person walking in the backyard, and I have a police report. And the police department suggested I put up a no trespassing sign. The only way he would know if I had 6 chickens is if he came on my property and he trespassed. So I'm not only concerned that he feels hateful, I'm concerned that he's comfortable coming on my property. And I have a bigger no trespassing sign. So I don't know if somebody could advise him that maybe that would be a bad idea. I don't want him on my property. I don't want him counting chickens. I only have 4 now, just so you know. And chickens really aren't ridiculous. And you defended the chickens, and I was happy to see that. But he believes that there are 2 metal garbage cans full of, what is it, corn? It's ridiculous. How can he say it's ridiculous when he doesn't know what's in the cans? It's kind of like a magical way of knowing this stuff. So this went on for a long time at the meeting. I understand about the traffic thing. And we also are talking about this corner house. It's been cleaned up over some time before the meeting. No, it's been cleaned up since the house became my house and it's in my name. But I'm glad he noticed, and I appreciate that, because I think you have a responsibility in a neighborhood. I agree with that. Then we have people complaining about how many birds are allowed in a yard. How many birds are we going to tolerate in somebody's yard? And that was by your town attorney. That was a discussion. Accumulation of birds on a property. How do you even regulate that? I mean, they're not waterfowl. I don't want somebody out there counting the birds on my property and complaining it's a problem. So maybe that can be clarified. I'm almost done. And there was a discussion with the geese and the ducks that are flying. They're discharging at houses and the windows. I have a news flash for everyone. There are no geese. Mr. Udelson, who lives next door to me, did say to me once, I'm fine with the ducks as long as there aren't geese. And I said, there are no geese. There are no geese, and I just want you to be assured that there have not been geese, there are no geese, so we don't have a geese problem. And nobody's windows on their house are getting covered with anything. And I don't know what a negative declaration is under SEQR with the Environmental Quality Review Act. I have a little concern because I've heard that, they're concerned about E. coli and sanitary things, but the ducks really aren't making any more of a mess than any other regular birds. Does the town have any facts about whether this is an E. coli thing?
Again, if you can.
Okay.
Oh.
Because I haven't had E. coli, and the ducks have been in my yard, and I've been in there for years. So I just don't want anyone to think it's a source of E. coli. If you had proof of that, that's fine, but I don't think that's the case. So I'd like to be accountable for everything I'm accountable for and not the things I'm not. This is just more... It's a problem I was identified, and I'm not sure that that's something that's allowed by law. And I've addressed the issue of people believing they know what's in the cans where the food is. And I've had your animal control person on my property, and I've shown him what's in the can, but I have no obligation to share any information with any of the neighbors. So if you want to know what's in, there's a report on that. So that's really about all I have to say. And the only other thing is that if you think these things don't have consequences, I had an interaction with Strellerman, who shall remain unidentified. And I was accused of standing in the middle of the sidewalk, blocking the sidewalk, refusing to let him and his stroller pass. I had no reason to want a man to stay there who was yelling at me, ordering me off the sidewalk. So logic would say, let that man go. You don't want to keep him here. So even though I'm standing on my own property, he's calling 911, doing a police report. And it was suggested to me by a friend, did you think that maybe all this waterfowl stuff and all the gossip had a person you've never talked to and never met having an impression and feeling like it was allowed to act that way? I said, that's an interesting thought. So although you don't see the consequences in this room, I pretty much stay at my house, which is why I'm never here. And I have a right to be at my house on my property. I'm not going to stay in my house in the evening so that nobody thinks I'm feeding ducks. I don't have to hide out. So I appreciate the suggestion from animal control, but I don't think that hiding out in my house is a solution. I'm either going to be honest and forthcoming, and I came and said, I agree, I will cooperate, or I won't. But there's no reason for me to want the ducks there next winter and see them starving. That's counter to everything I believe and you believe. So I would not put them in that position. So that's my goal, that's your goal. Anything that you'd like to respond to? So it was a lot.
It was a lot, and
I know.
I just
But
want to...
it's affecting my life.
I want to just clarify that the reference to the negative declaration
Yes.
is under the SEQRA that you refer to as the State Environmental Quality Review Act. And part of action in adopting a local law is making a determination under that state law as to whether the law will materially adversely affect the environment, and a negative declaration
Okay.
is...
It doesn't have to be E. coli then, it can just be a general nuisance thing, just more than normal, more than you'd like.
Well, and I guess the one other thing I would say, if you have a no trespass sign...
I do, 2 of them.
And if you see people that you have not allowed, not given permission
call
to go into your
911, or
yard,
should I
you
take
should...
care of them
Yes,
myself?
you should call 911.
Sort
You
of.
should call 911. Thank you.
Yes, and I had an incident with a broken window. I've had a cone thrown through my 2 front windows, which was a problem. So you have this waterfowl thing going on. This happened in March when all this waterfowl stuff and discussions were happening that I didn't know about. And I've lived here since 1985, and I've never had anyone throw a construction cone from across the street by the down light pole through my storm window and my front window of my house. So that was a little disturbing. So these things have consequences. When people are throwing things through my windows and I live alone and it was dark, it's a concerning thing. It may sound like just people being annoyed and angry, but what I read in this was pretty hateful. These people don't know me. I've never spoken to them. And these things have happened. And probably the most disturbing thing was the cone coming through my 2 front windows. And I have a $5,000 deductible because I have replacement on that house. So for a few $100s, it wouldn't make sense for me to try to get insurance to cover that, because it would have to cost $5,000 for insurance to cover it. And there's no reason I would damage my own house, since I've worked very hard to stay in it. Because you folks in the town of Brighton were paying for my granddaughter's education at Norman Howard School, because she had very significant learning disabilities, and I appreciated that, and she had 2 years left. So my choice was to keep the house. So I have the house, and I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to be here forever. She's out of school, and she graduated, so I have to say thank you because I appreciated it. The $28,000 a year was more than I could have paid, and nothing means more to me than my granddaughter's welfare. So that was very significant. That was worth all of the duck complaints, all the harassment, all the comments from the meeting. She got what she needed, and that was the most important thing to me. This, I think, can be managed because this shouldn't happen.
Thank you.
Is there a response that I'm going to have at some time?
I I responded to a couple of the
Right.
points you made, and we've, it's been over half an hour at this
Okay,
point,
I
but
didn't
I
mean now.
appreciate.
I didn't mean now, but at some point it would be nice to have a discussion about this. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during the open forum portion of the meeting? If not, then we will continue on with the agenda.
Bill, I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
I think I got Robin there. It's close. Any discussion? Why don't I do this now? I'm going to add an item of communication. It's related actually to an item of communication that we already have here. You each received this communication from Mr. Rod Bailey. It's dated June 24th. It also relates to the Climate and Community Protection Act, as does the material that we have from the Sustainability Oversight Committee. So I will,
Move that that be added as well to the agenda.
Second.
okay, so the motion would be to add that to the agenda, and with that addition, you approve the
Yes.
agenda. And Dan, I don't know if you have a copy of that, but I'll pass this hard copy down to you. We have a motion and a second. Further comments? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Public hearings, we have one public hearing tonight. It is the proposed 2019 Bel Air and Roselawn Neighborhoods Speed Limit Amendments Local Law for speed limit reductions from 30 to 25 miles an hour on a number of different streets, and I won't read them all, but they are all listed in the agenda. Dan, has the legal notice been given in this matter?
Yes, Supervisor, it was published in the June 20th edition of the Brighton Pittsburgh Post
And posted on the
and on the message board and website.
notice having been given, I declare this public hearing to be open. And I know it was discussed in the Public Safety Committee. It may have been discussed in the Public Works Committee as well, I believe. Is there any, Mark, would you or Mike like to say anything about?
Just to,
Specific
from
law
an
before we open
enforcement
it up.
standpoint, consistency across the town works best for us.
Thank you. Is there anyone here who would like to address the proposed local law? Hearing none, I would note, apropos of Mark's statement, one of the things that was discussed in the committee level was that there are some streets in these neighborhoods that have previously been reduced to 25. And in the interest of consistency, both for motorists, so they would have a level of certainty, but also obviously for our police department to abet enforcement, it was felt that a consistent speed limit in the neighborhoods would be advisable. Anyone else from the audience or from the board have any comments on this? You'll obviously have an opportunity, board members, once we close the public hearing and call the roll on this.
I'd like to note only that community members have been very thoughtful and focused on bringing these concerns to the appropriate committees. They have been prepared with detailed information about how it impacts their well-being and how safety for children and others out on the streets is impacted by the by speeding, by inconsistent observance of the speed limit, and it's very helpful to have the community bringing this directly to us instead of leaving us to guess where the concerns are. And with the clarity of the case, we're able to move very quickly on addressing the concerns.
Good. Anyone else like to address the board? Hearing none, I declare this public hearing to be closed. Christine, would you like to make the motion?
Sure. On the matter of speed limit amendments to the local law for proposed speed limit reductions from 30 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour on Mayflower Drive, Warrington Drive, Winton Road to Monroe, Warrington Drive from South Winton Road to Monroe Avenue, Verena Drive from Oakdale Drive to South Winton Road, Rhinecliff Drive from Oakdale Drive to Monroe Avenue, Chadburn Road from the city line to Warrington Drive, Tarrytown Road from Glen Ellen Way to St. Regis Drive North, and Imperial Drive from South Winton Road to Glen Ellen Way. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on that. Any further discussion by the board? Okay, hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Thank you. There are no more public hearings tonight. We have no bids. Communications. Can I have a motion to receive and file the communications, including the added communication from Mr. Bailey?
So moved.
Second.
Robin wins again.
Trying to give her room. She's a little slow on the buzzer.
We do have communication from our Sustainability Oversight Committee relating to a specific piece of legislation concerning a newly introduced carbon fee and dividend concept. We have, as well as Mr. Bailey's letter also relating to carbon fee and dividend legislation. As people who follow us closely know, we did take action last year supporting the concept of a carbon fee and dividend concept, but with a couple of what we felt were significant problems with this specific legislation, one of which dealt with issues of equity, that it would apply across the board regardless of income, but also that it treats the town as as I've liked to say, as if we were a rendering factory. It does not include local municipal government as getting a dividend. And what is local government if it is not the people? We are the level of government closest to the people. If we are forced to pay higher prices for carbon products, of which we use a lot, and not just for fuel. We use carbon for things like asphalt, quite a bit, and other related paving items. If we do not get a dividend back, as this bill would so state, then our taxpayers, you the residents, would be paying the cost of that carbon fee on the town. The drafters of the legislation recognize that individuals should not be stuck with that the goal was not to foist that fee on individuals, and by forcing the town to pay it, and inevitably then including it in our own tax levies, we would be pushing it back onto our residents. So as we discussed back last year when we talked about the concept of a carbon fee, we don't object to legislation that addresses those two concerns. This particular bill does not. So we will continue to stand on the record, which unanimously last year we supported the concept of a carbon fee and dividend, and we hope, because it is important that in a market system that carbon, like other products, is priced accurately, and carbon inputs into the system are not priced accurately when the negative impacts on the environment are not considered. But it is important that when it is priced accurately, that it is not done so in a way that impacts individuals unfairly and impacts local governments unfairly. So that's a long conversation, but it's an important issue, and it relates to sustainability, which everybody knows is a priority for us as a community. A much easier and happier letter is from Mr. Gary Woodnick on Highland Avenue, who expressed his appreciation for service by the Highway Department. We've gotten a lot of those lately, verbal or in writing, Mike. Your people, the Highway Department workers, do great work. They do it sometimes under very difficult conditions. Every day isn't 84 and sunny. And a lot of the days they're out doing work. It's pouring, it's snowing, it's blowing, and but no matter, they get the job done. We're appreciative, and certainly Mr. Woodnick was appreciative, so thank you. We have a motion to receive and file each of those items of communication. Any further discussion on those? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Committee reports. Community Services Committee, Robin.
Thanks, Bill. The Community Services Committee met on Wednesday, June 19th at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside School. Among the items that we discussed was a Corbett's Glen update from Dennis Adams. The Corbett's Glen Advisory Council met recently. The initial thought was that decent progress was being made with the installation of split rail fencing within Corbett's Glen until Memorial Day came, and people were observed very much in the water. Erosion concerns were reviewed, and Dennis noted that poor water management upstream in neighboring Penfield is contributing to erosion near the falls at Corbett's Glen, along with rampant incursions of people and animals into the water. Unless we find a way to make major changes in the behaviors of people in Corbett's Glen, we will experience conditions that are going to continue to deteriorate. He noted that 3 out of 4 members of the advisory council now have expressed that dogs should be banned from Corbett's Glen to try to preserve the habitat. The pros and cons of allowing dogs were discussed, but there was no consensus that banning dogs is the one solution to fix the erosion problems. Invasive species were also discussed at length. Japanese knotweed, giant hogweed, swallowwort, lesser celandine, and multifloral rose are all pervasive within the park.
I just want, giant hogweed is not pervasive in the park.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
It was
Right,
at one time.
I'm sorry, it
Okay.
was at one time,
I
yeah.
didn't want to put a scare into people.
We do
'cause-
not have a giant hogweed problem, because once you do see giant hogweed, it will be removed by the state.
Yeah.
So anyway, we possess limited methods to stop these invasive species due to restrictions on using pesticides and the labor-intensive nature of addressing the problem.
Right now, we do have some solutions that we discussed. Number one, Parks Department continues to take action to discourage people from breaching the fence. Brush is being piled up along the knee fencing to continue to discourage people from straying from the marked pathways. The police department continues to maintain a greater presence in the park on high usage days. 3, we're exploring using social media to help remind and reinforce about the appropriate use of all parks and developing public awareness campaigns with respect to Corbett's Glen in particular. 4, we're exploring providing information about dog park availability at nearby Ellison Park at the trailheads within Corbett's Glen. 5, at our highway department, we're reviewing the positioning of no parking signs and existing parking configurations to make sure there are no discrepancies between the text of the Town of Brighton parking law at Corbett's Glen and what is in place on Glen Road. 6, we're working with the highway and police departments to install preventative striping in the roadway to make it clearer where parking is not allowed, while also preserving sight lines for safety. And 7, we're working to engage interested volunteer and philanthropic organizations in partnership to help adopt Corbett's Glen and assist the Parks Department with the maintenance load. Of course, Corbett's Glen is not our only park, and we also were updated on other park issues. The Parks Department has been working through changes with Brighton Little League's use of fields and commensurately stepping up its maintenance efforts as Brighton Little League has stepped back from grooming the fields that they've traditionally utilized. The department is still on track from its ongoing projects for the year. 4th of July preparations are set, and this year we're excited to add a mobile video game truck to the event. Concessions setup will be much the same as last year, but we will explore kosher and halal options for refreshments. In terms of our recreation programs, we had several updates. Our current web-based registration vendor, Rec1 registration system, is changing their fee structure to be more cost prohibitive. So the Recreation Department is exploring our options for viable and cost-effective registration systems that do not sacrifice any of the functionality that we currently enjoy. The end of the year dance recital was successfully hosted by Bay Trail Middle School, which is new due to Brighton Central School District facilities not being available as a result of construction this year. The recitals were very well received by families, and Bay Trail Middle School was a great location for the event, and we want to thank the Penfield Central School District. Preparations for summer programs and summer camp continue in conjunction with the Penfield Central School District for our Indian Landing location, which will serve as a temporary substitute location for Council Rock Primary School programming during its construction. Staff trainings for summer camp began on June 23rd. The fall recreation brochure planning and recruitment for program offerings is currently underway. Staff is discussing and reviewing the need for a pet policy for programs at Brighton Recreation, as there have been recent concerns raised with regards to dogs attending programs with their owners. The department is drafting guidelines around this so that all participants will feel welcome. In the meantime, we're asking that if there is not a health-related or access exigent need, participants leave their dogs at home where they will be safe and more comfortable, quite frankly. Summer concert series is set. The Parks Department will be all hands on deck when Noble Vibes appears on July 23rd to handle the increased traffic influx. All soccer fields will be closed on Tuesday evenings during our concert series. Matt Beeman, a park superintendent, is working on securing a food vendor, either a food truck or cart, to be located in the concessions building for concert nights. We had an update with regard to the Winter Farm Market. A substantial certificate of completion has been issued for phase 1 of the project. The contractor is finishing up the last few items on the construction punch list, and Mike Guyon, our Commissioner of Public Works, is working on developing phase 2 of the project with the design consultants in sight. We also had an update on our Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Committee. The final contract has been executed with Gwen Inc. and members of the IDEA Consultant Proposal Selection Committee, which includes special advisors to the supervisor, Sheila Gaddis, Supervisor Maley, IDEA Board Chair Felicia Garcia-Harstein, and myself, conducted a pre-meeting with Gwen Inc. this morning, in fact, to review the goals of the RFP and prepare for our inaugural meeting of the IDEA Board. The intention is to have our first meeting of the entire IDEA Board within the next month. We had an update with regard to our community choice aggregation law as well. There was a meeting on June 24th with the other communities involved in the Memorandum of Understanding and all of the municipal attorneys to review the proposal findings and evaluations that each individual community had come up with. The attorneys will compile a list of follow-up questions for the respondent CCA administrators, and we are still targeting, that is, all of the communities are still targeting the end of the summer for rollout of our initial CCA implementation. We had an update on the renovation, repair, and painting certification update. At its annual meeting on June 20th, the Rochester Lead Coalition issued the town of Brighton a certificate of appreciation for implementing renovation, repair, and painting certification verification as part of our permitting process. I want to congratulate our staff in Public Works for the terrific rollout of this important health and safety policy. We also had updates with regard to Brighton Safe Streets for All, the PACE program, and the Complete Street Makeover Contest. The framework is in place for the PACE car program, and a website is being developed. And in addition to that, piggybacking off of the Drive to Be Better program, which is another kind of habit-changing program, the Brighton Pace Car program will be performing benchmarking and quantitative analysis of how we're doing changing the habits of our drivers in this community and improving the safety of our neighborhoods. And we have some sad news that Brighton was not ultimately selected for the Complete Street Makeover project, even though that was a long shot. But there is a silver lining to that cloud, because as a result of our entry, we will potentially have the opportunity to work with students from the Cornell College of Agriculture and Life Sciences to develop a concept proposal for the intersection of Torrington and Brooklawn at Monroe Avenue. And we want to thank Brighton Safe Streets for All and all of the community members who worked on submissions and highlighting intersections in our community that could use improvement. We've heard your feedback, and we will continue to explore effective ways to improve the safety and traversability of our neighborhoods with alternate methods of transportation. We also had an update with regard to our council member on your corner. The schedule for the summer has been set. Our first appearance was on June 9th, and we had another appearance on June 23rd. Both were successful, I think. I think we've all, the 4 council members have had it go around at least, and we'll be trying to document how many visits we receive and the topics discussed each time so that people who may have similar questions can share in the information dissemination. We're a work in progress, so we continue to tweak the formula, so we welcome your feedback on how we can improve this new offering.
I like the weather improvement. That
Right, our first
Step in the
weekend
right
was
direction.
tough, but definitely we had beautiful weather this evening. And we had one item of new business, and that's our noise ordinance benchmarking in response to some resident concerns expressed about lawn equipment noise. We have been researching and reviewing the town of Brighton noise ordinance to best ensure the health and safety of our community. In the process of conducting some research with regard to the effective hours of noise ordinances, we noted that some of our neighboring communities do have decibel-based ordinances. It was also noted that public works and snow removal are typically not subject to municipal noise ordinances. So concerns that have been addressed about the town's activities with regard to maintenance of highways, roads, and parks would not necessarily be addressed through any revision to our code. Ken Gordon, our town attorney, has been performing some benchmarking as well, and the codes of the city of Rochester, Penfield, Pittsford, Mendon, Irondequoit, and Phelps, who has a very intricate decibel-based noise ordinance, are currently being reviewed to see if Brighton is in line with our neighboring communities and how we might be able to improve our codes with respect to noise to better serve the entirety of the community. I want to highlight a couple of events. Of course, next week is our 4th of July celebration at Meridian Center Park, 2025 Meridian Center Boulevard. That's on Thursday, July 4th, of course. Festivities begin at 2 p.m. Our summer concert series, as I mentioned, at Buckland Park, 1341 Westfall Road, will be on Tuesdays, July 9th through August 13th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And again, there will be no soccer parking during that time. And looking ahead to the fall, our semi-annual electronics recycling and document shredding event will be at the Brighton Highway Department, 1941 Elmwood Avenue on Saturday, October 12th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., 12 noon this year. And the semi-annual DEA Pharmaceutical Take-Back Day will be at the Brighton Town Hall Public Safety Wing, 2300 Elmwood Avenue, Saturday, October 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The next meeting of the Community Services Committee will be on Wednesday, July 17th at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside School, and as always, members of the public are welcome to attend. Thanks.
Thank you, Robin. Finance Committee. Jason is not here. Is someone giving a Finance Committee report tonight?
Yes, and I will be briefer.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. Sorry. Yes.
I know most of what we discussed is on
Yes,
the agenda.
yeah. The Town Board's Finance and Administrative Services Committee met on July 19th at 8:30 a.m. Each of the items discussed will appear on tonight's agenda. There are two items that were substantially discussed during the meeting. The first was a budget transfer for emergency tree removal, and the second item was the acceptance of monetary and in-kind donations in the amount of $3,110.55 for the 2019 Town of Brighton Annual Clean Sweep Program. I want to take a moment to thank all of our generous donors that each year for the past 11 years have helped make the Brighton Annual Clean Sweep such a resounding success. And those donors include Delta Labs, Bagelland, Starbucks, Tops Markets, Wegmans, Mark's Pizzeria, the Brighton Fire Department, Canandaigua National Bank, Brighton Rotary Club, Roselawn Neighborhood Association, Inc., Brighton Chamber of Commerce, the Brighton Teachers Association, Brighton Volunteer Ambulance, MicroWorks Direct, Inc., Waste Management, and Assemblymember Jamie Romeo. Thanks again for the entire community for pulling together for this program.
Thank you.
Oh, and I'm sorry, the next meeting of the FAST Committee will be held on Wednesday, July 3rd at 8:30 a.m. in the Stage Conference Meeting Room of the Brighton Town Hall. As usual, members of the public are invited to attend.
Thank you very much. Public Safety, Christine?
So Public Safety Committee has not met since the last town board meeting. However, our next meeting will be Tuesday, July 9th at 8 a.m. in the lower level meeting room here at Town Hall. The agenda and minutes are published online, and the public is always encouraged to attend. I would like to note that in following along with the theme of traffic safety and traffic calming, a resident has reached out and asked that school zone speed limits throughout town be put on the agenda. So members of the public who are interested in seeing safety, especially around our schools, may be interested in attending on Tuesday, July 9th, 8 a.m.
Thank you.
That's all.
Chris, Public Works?
Public Works meets monthly. Our next monthly meeting is July 2nd, and reported on the June meeting at our last town board meeting. But please come July 2nd, 9 o'clock a.m. In the downstairs meeting room.
Beautiful. Thank you. New business, reading and approval of claims. Are you doing that as well, Robin?
Yes, I am. Subbing for Jason. Jason's keeping me working hard here tonight. Let me see. Earlier today, I reviewed claims totaling the amount of $1,072,965. I'm sorry. Let's do that again. $1,072,965.55. Notable claims include to BML Construction Company in the amount of $21,145.86, representing payment less the retainage amount for the work completed on the Farmers Market Barn renovation project per contract. Also to the City of Rochester Treasurer in the amount of $287,500, representing payment for the Rochester Fire Department services for the West Brighton Fire Protection District per contract. To Concrete Applied Technologies Corp., DBA CATCO, in the amount of $170,307.52, representing payment for infrastructure improvements related to the construction of the Highland Crossing Trail project. To Iroquois Rock Products, Inc., in the amount of $25,590.53, representing payment for asphalt purchase for the summer season paving program. You'll see us around town. And to Plant Concepts, Inc., in the amount of $17,388, representing payment for contracted services for park mowing in the amount of $16,956, and mulch purchased in the amount of $432. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Can I have a second? Second, thank you. Discussion on any of those? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Chris?
Next item is to authorize a budget transfer in the amount of $10,000 from the contingency account to the tree replacement account for emergency, unplanned, unbudgeted tree removals. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Can I have a second?
Second.
As we do each year, we're a Tree City USA. Part of maintaining our tree canopy, unfortunately, sometimes involves taking down trees. And these are situations where trees have been identified that by their condition, they are really important that they be taken down. They do pose risks. We've had wind. We have had, unfortunately, increases in the cost of our tree servicing contract that is already, at this point in the year, put our cost of tree removals above what we had budgeted. So for that reason, we are making this transfer of $10,000 to continue our necessary emergency tree removal process. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Robin?
On the next matter, that seeks the acceptance of sponsorships of cash and in-kind services in the amount of $3,110.55 for the 2019 Clean Sweep program, I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
This is exactly what Robin just referred to. Thank you to all those generous donors, most of whom are longtime repeat donors. We appreciate everything you do to make, as you said, Clean Sweep a success, and it is, and it brings the community together. Not only does it clean the community, but it engages the community, and you've been a part of that, every one of those sponsors. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Christine?
On the matter of accepting the donation from Wegmans Food Markets in the amount of $6,000 to support ongoing special events and programs offered by the Recreation and Parks Department throughout 2019, I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
And this is, Wegmans makes a sort of an omnibus donation covering various activities of the town each year. Wegmans has been a long-time sponsor of a number of our events, including our upcoming summer concert series, and we appreciate their continued donation of $6,000. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Robin?
On the next matter that seeks the approval of voting leave policy to comply with recently enacted New York State election law, Section 3-110, I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Exactly as described, we are amending our policy so that we will be in compliance with this newly adopted law. It does give employees the opportunity to take time off if needed to vote, and we certainly encourage people to vote whenever elections are held that they're eligible to vote in. We have the motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Chris?
Next item is for the appointment of Francine Schwartz Wallace to the Architectural Review Board. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
And we appreciate, as we always do, Fran's willingness to serve, and she clearly brings a lot to this important board, so I'm looking forward to welcoming her aboard.
Nice meeting you.
Yep. Further discussion? If not, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Next, Christine.
On the matter of authorizing the town of Brighton to join the Title VII amicus brief prepared by Mayors Against LGBTQ Discrimination, I move that we approve the resolution before us.
Second.
I am a member of Mayors Against LGBTQ Discrimination, and we have signed on to previous lawsuits, including the Masterpiece Cake litigation, the well-known litigation involving a bakery that wanted to discriminate against people in selling wedding cakes. This law it really addresses one of our fundamental civil rights laws in the country, Title VII, and specifically the ban included as part of Title VII in workplace sex discrimination. And it has been, for many years, the expectation. There have been cases that make it clear that discrimination against members of the LGBTQ community in the workplace are in fact workplace sex discrimination. However, a trio of cases has come before the Supreme Court in which the Supreme Court will have to decide, is that really the case? I am hopeful and confident that my colleagues will unanimously join me in authorizing an amicus, in participating in an amicus brief by the Mayors Against LGBTQ Discrimination to express our feeling that Title VII does, in fact, when it prohibits workplace sex discrimination, that clearly includes discrimination against people in the workplace because they are members of the LGBTQ community. That is, it's pretty self-evident. In fact, I think it came to us as a surprise that people would feel differently about it. I mean, that is on its face. But in any event, we hope that this will be persuasive. And I think it's important that we do it, not just because we believe in equal rights for all, but we also believe, frankly, that sexual harassment in the workplace any workplace it's bad for the community, it's bad for business, it comes back to hurt, communities like Brighton. We feel very strongly, we've been at the cutting edge of advancing rights for the LGBTQ community, in several cases ahead of the state of New York's own anti-discrimination laws. We would be hurt particularly if this rollback were allowed to stand. So I appreciate, Christine, you making that motion and Chris seconding it so that we can again join this amicus brief, which is due by July 1st. So we will be taking action very quickly on this. We have Ken has been working as he has in the past. We've been sharing that information from the mayor's group, and we'll be going forward before July 1st. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Chris?
Next item is to declare
Thank you, everybody, by the way.
The next item is to declare structures at 2842 West Henrietta Road as dangerous and unsafe, and to set a public hearing date for the proposed demolition of those structures. I believe the hearing date anticipated is July 24th. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
This is what formerly was a single-family home and a detached garage that is in very, very bad condition. It's falling down around itself, you might say. So this would engage our demolition process. It's a process we've used before, and it involves, among other things, making sure that the owner of the property has the opportunity to demolish the property themselves in the hopes that we would not have to engage. So, Mike, anything further that you want to say on that one?
The only thing, the house is in terrible disrepair. It's an unsafe structure and needs to be dealt with.
Okay, we have that motion and second. If there's nothing further, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Robin?
The next item seeks to authorize changes to the table of organization of the Brighton Consolidated Sewer District and authorize the Commissioner of Public Works to advertise vacant laborer positions. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Mike has advised me that we have a retirement coming up, not a retirement, right, but
A staff member has taken an opportunity to
Right.
find more employment with RG&E.
Yep, and we'll talk more about that at a future meeting, I'm sure, but this will be a part of the process that will enable us to hire a laborer to continue to do the good work of the department that we talked about earlier tonight. We have a motion, and who made the second on that? Did Chris?
Robin moving and Chris Warner.
Got it. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye.
I believe that was actually my motion.
No, I've got, it was Robin that
Good,
made the
Robin.
motion.
Yeah,
That
I
I
made
do
the
have.
motion, yeah.
She beat you again, can I say?
No, table of organization, excuse me, okay.
Moving fast now.
Yeah, can I have a motion to receive and file the May 2019 expense and revenue report?
So moved.
Second.
As we do each month, we will receive and file this, and at the end of June, when we have our first half of the year done, we will get a more comprehensive report from our finance director. But we have a motion seconded to receive and file the report. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Again, I think it's important to remind folks, lawn and garden debris, our crews are moving through the town quickly and they're doing a great job. I do want to remind people of a couple of things. We do pick up bulk lawn and garden debris, but if you have bulk lawn and garden debris, we ask that you not put it in the street. In fact, we more than ask. It is really important that you not put it in the street. We've had several nights of heavy downpours, one just night before last. When we get those, if there is debris in the street, it can cause neighborhood flooding. It's dangerous for cyclists, for pedestrians. It's illegal. So for all of those reasons, please don't pile brush in the street. People will say, I didn't know that. We do try to make that announcement at every meeting. It's on our webpage. Tell your neighbors, if you see one of your neighbors, just give them a friendly, hey neighbor. For all of our sakes, please pile that on the grass. Especially true, we do offer containerized pickup as well. That gets picked up generally more quickly. If you have small quantities, it's really important that you containerize them. We really don't want to have our crews have to stop, engage at a location. And I've seen piles of debris that are not much bigger than this little iPad here. If you've got that small an amount, and I'm not exaggerating, if you've got that small of an amount, put it in one of those big brown paper bags or put it in a trash can. Save it up for the next weekend. But please, those small quantities, don't leave them bulk. We sometimes get calls, hey, you forgot me. And I think sometimes it's because there was such a small amount, the drivers weren't even sure it was there to be picked up. So if you got that small amount, put it in a container, it will get up.
And Bill, to be clear, container is one of those paper bags, those lawn bags, or a trash barrel of some sort, but not a plastic lawn bag.
Not a plastic bag of any kind, that's right. We do compost these, and a plastic bag.
It doesn't compost.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. So thanks, good reminder.
And Bill, if I may, the safety concern is very real. My grandson had a collision with a refuse pile, which he wasn't injured in, but nonetheless on his bicycle, it was a little scary for him. But now my wife has had a collision with a refuse pile in the dark, in the rain, leaving a friend's home, and did damage to our exhaust system on her car. And so for that, I did not blame her. But the refuse pile did not belong in the street.
No, it doesn't.
And it was quite a large one.
Yeah, thanks. Just to add on a little bit to the 4th of July announcement that was already made, I want to remind everybody that there are morning activities as well. In the high school area, there is the annual Brighton Chamber of Commerce 5K race starting at 8 a.m. The start line is right there on Winton Road near the high school. Hundreds of people every year. If you haven't signed up yet, you still can. Fleet Feet administers that along with the Chamber of Commerce. And also until noon on the 4th of July morning, Thursday, July 4th, is the annual pancake breakfast that is held in the cafeteria at Brighton High School. If you run, you get a discount. If you run, you may get recognized at the awards ceremony, which is also there in the cafeteria. So come on out. It's a fun way to start the 4th of July. See your neighbors, see your friends, run 5K, and get a great day started with.
Jason running? Do we know?
Well, I'll tell you, I've seen him running out on the streets a couple times. I saw him even on his birthday making an early morning run last week. So
coming out for the
I imagine he will be. Judge Karen Morris often runs in that 5K race. So a lot of good participation in that.
He knows he can't fight Father Time, right?
He's trying. So that's all I have. Matters of the attorney for the town. Ken.
Just one matter.
I want to compliment the sign language interpreters for managing to keep up with the incredibly quick way that you folks give long numbers and long unfamiliar names. They're working very, very hard, and I have the unique position of being able to watch their work directly across from my seat. So perhaps in future meetings, we could slow down just a little so that we could get those numbers and those names spelled out by our sign language interpreters without them breaking too much of a sweat.
Duly noted. Kudos, thank you.
Thank you.
Matters of the town clerk.
I have nothing this evening.
And I'll give some kudos, though, to you, Dan, and to the people who worked as election inspectors yesterday. Primary elections are always a little different. This one, I think probably the biggest challenge we faced is that for most of the town, the two major parties did not have primary elections. And all day we had folks coming in thinking, wanting to vote and being disappointed to learn that only the Working Families Party and the Independence Party had primary elections in most of the town. The far northwest part of town up by Mercy did have a Democratic primary for the county legislature, so there was a little more activity at that polling place. But even though we had fewer locations, we still had people who worked the day from noon till 9 and then afterwards counting the votes.
Still didn't get out before 10. Two
That's
sites.
right.
We were
That's
still
right.
here till after 10.
So thank you for that. Thank you for everybody that voted. I will say, though, that turnout, as it often is in primaries, was not as high as I think anybody would like it to be. And primaries can be, in some cases, just as important. Primaries can decide elections. In some cases, there is no contested general election. So really, you know, bring your kids, bring your grandkids, but when you have a chance to vote, people have died for that for 200 plus years. People have fought marched in the streets. Women marched in the streets. African Americans marched and took other action throughout the country. We all owe it to all the people that have protested and in some cases given their lives in service to exercise that right to vote, and I appreciate everybody that did. Matters of the town board.
I do have just one announcement. I know school has just ended, but you can get a jump on your recreation after-school program for the 2019-2020 school year right now. Registration for new families began on June 4th. And again, Brighton Recreation offers one of the only fully flexible after-school programs in the area for children attending Brighton schools in 1st through 5th grade. No membership is required, and you pay only for the days that you actually use. We're certified with the state agency, NYS, so CFS, and we have high staff to student ratios to ensure safe, fun program for your child. So if you're interested, please do register now for the fall.
Great reminder, thank you. And great plug, because it is an excellent programming and very cost effective for families. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, I'm sorry, is there any of the rest of you have anything?
Should we give Chris a chance to
No, I wanted to mention that Christine gave a great report on our Councilman at the Corner program as well. I got your email, Christine, very good job. And one of the things I particularly appreciated was someone from the town of, one of the neighboring towns, that came up and said.
Or was it a village? I think it might have been a village.
A neighboring municipality.
Well, I didn't want to mention Fairport, but there was. But in any event, a neighboring municipality came up and said what a great idea it was, and she really wished that their town had something comparable. So that alone settled that. Just the fact that we're out there taking it to the people is a great thing. Good idea, Ron.
Very good idea, and we're really grateful to the farmers market too for making the space
Yes.
available.
Yes. Thank you, Sue Gardner-Smith. Now, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Will?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Our next meeting will be July 10th. Happy 4th of July, and stay safe, please, everybody. Thank you.